on, everybody? Hopefully you guys are doing great. This has been an interesting time, and I know for a lot of you guys, how to be creative, how to write your sermons, how to write your talks, even your Facebook Lives, how to do that has completely changed over the last few weeks. And so some of you guys have been asking me about my at-home creative process that you've seen me take pictures of and post up about me writing out my messages, writing out my keynotes or my sermons or my workshops that we're doing. And so you guys have been asking me about what am I doing, how do I do it, and so I figured I would just jump on here and talk a little bit about it. So the backstory is this, I had an office for 20 years, and my office was always filled with gigantic whiteboards. In fact, I used to have an entire wall that was just completely filled with a whiteboard, and we would just write on it and draw and all kinds of stuff. And so I'm a huge fan of whiteboards. I'm sure that you are as well. But we're not in our offices now, and many of us don't have whiteboards in our home, and probably don't want to put up a huge whiteboard on our wall. And so about a year ago, about 18 months ago, I transitioned out of my traditional job at a traditional church role, and I transitioned into working from home. And so I was just like you are now, and I didn't have an office at home. In fact, for the first year, up until just a few weeks ago, I worked out of my own bedroom. So my commute to work was about 3 steps, actually about 2 steps from my bed to my office chair. And so in our bedroom, we didn't want to put up a huge whiteboard. We didn't want to put up these huge boards, especially because we knew we were leaving and moving soon. And so we didn't want to do that. And so you probably don't either, especially right now in this temporary at-home quarantine work environment. You probably don't want to do that. So how do you have a great creative process when you're at home and you don't have all those things that you normally would have? Well, so for me, the other issue that I had with whiteboards was this, is that oftentimes we would have these huge elaborate things with all kinds of ideas and things written on them. But then it was like, man, how do we keep that? And so we would take pictures of it, we put it in Evernote, we take, and then, but it just wasn't always there, because then, for example, there would be times where we'd want to come back to the idea. Well, we'd erase the whiteboard and we'd open up the Evernote, we'd have to kind of redraw some stuff. Or if you have an office like mine that's pretty public, my office that I had was very public. I had a lot of people coming in and out of it all day long, and a lot of the information that was on our whiteboards affected them or included them, and so I didn't really want them seeing the information that I had on the whiteboard. And so oftentimes I'd have to like cover it up with butcher paper or things like that. And so anyway, there was some inconveniences even to the whiteboard, but for me, I'm a huge visual guy, and so I love to see my ideas. I love to just get ideas out. I'm an external processor, and so again, I like to just talk out loud, get my ideas out, get them on paper, get them out of my head, get them so I can see them. Probably throw out 15 ideas that are terrible to finally get to the one idea that's actually pretty good. But I want to be able to get it out there, see it, move it around, and things like that. So if it's stuck in my head, I just can't move forward. And so again, these whiteboards were huge for me. And again, we would get them. And so, but now I don't have one. And you probably don't have one either, or maybe you have a little tiny one, from your kids' playroom or something like that. But I want to give you guys an idea that I've been using about this rolled paper here. Okay, so I was visiting a church. I was working with a church, and I went into the pastor's office, and he had his desk where he would study. He had his desk set up where he would do his meetings, things like that. But then over in this corner, he had this really long table, and he had one of these paper rolls at the very end of it. And so I began to ask him about it, and rolled out there was his sermon. And it was all laid out there on this long, long paper. And so I began to talk to him about it. He began to explain it to me, and I said, that's what I need right there. And so I came home, and he had hand built his, and so I didn't really want to get that committed to it when I was just trying it out. And so I went on Amazon, and I'll put the link to the description of this below in the comments. But I went online and bought one of these. It's pretty small. I just want to, again, I bought a small one. It's kind of like a kid's craft paper dispenser. I wanted to start kind of small to see if I even liked the idea. And since I've been using it, I love it, and I'm be committed to it. But you can also go to Office Depot. Office Depot has these banner rolls, which again are significantly bigger than the one I have. Now that I have my own office, and now that I've tried this out, I'm probably going to be switching to this, and I'll be making probably a custom one that fits for this to roll out on this big table here. Now that I feel like I'm more committed to it. But again, this was probably, I think, about $15 for the dispenser and the first roll. These, I think, are probably 10, 15 bucks, maybe something like that. And so once you build it, it's pretty easy to replace them. Office Depot, Home Depot, not Home Depot, but Office Depot, Office Max, things like that will have these for you. Again, I'll put the links to those as well. But these are pretty cheap. But basically, the concept is this, is that instead of just having a stack of regular paper that just kind of gets lost, and it's all stacked up all over the place, and you don't remember what page is where, you can just use this. And the way this works, you just pull this out. And this one's blank, obviously. Just pull this out, and then you can use just something on your table right here, just kind of a tablet there you can hold that down with. And then you can start writing out all of your ideas of where you're at. Now, for me, I use a template. So I'm a big fan of using templates. And so for all of my Facebook Lives, my sermons, my keynotes, my workshops that we do on DISC or Enneagram, or whatever workshops we're doing, if we're doing with a corporate event, even we're still doing these templates. And so for me, what I've done is, and here's the beauty of this as well, is it keeps it super organized. And again, we just moved in, so I don't have all these cool things. So right now, I'm just using a bucket. Eventually, I'll have a cool looking basket for these. But basically, here are a couple of ideas, things that I've been working on. So here's a series on 2 Kings. I did one video already. I'm working on a couple other ideas. Basically, here's this. Here's a series of a bunch of ideas on fasting, a couple videos I've already recorded, and we'll record some more eventually later. But for example, here's my sermon template. I've also got, I don't know where they're at yet because we just moved in, so I don't know where they're at, but I've got like my worksheet templates, I've got Facebook templates, all that kind of stuff that are just rolled up. And you just simply roll this up, put a couple of paper clips on it, just throw them in your basket here, and then you got it. But so, for example, if you want to start fresh, you just roll this out and you can start writing. So sometimes, even for this video here, I just rolled it out, began to write out what I wanted to talk about, put them in order, and then just ripped it off. And I'm using it now. The other thing you can do, again, if you're going to use a template, is you just roll out your template. So here, for example, is my sermon template. So every sermon that I do is essentially the same format, same template. And so I've got the template here. Now, the pastor that I got this idea from, he writes on his actual piece of paper every week. And he's got, probably 10 or 15 sermons that he's been working on. And so as he knows, 6 weeks from now, we'll talk about this passage. And so he has that laid out. And the way that you keep track of that is you write that right here. So you roll it up and then you just write what it is right there on the corner. And you can then easily look inside your basket and see what is inside that roll. He had building plans, he had small group plans, all kinds of things that he was just dreaming about, thinking about, rolled up and in there. But again, your sermon template, and if sermon templates is a new idea to you, I would say this, that a lot of speakers use them. You know, Andy Stanley has his 5-step. It's me, we, God, you, we format. Judah Smith has a 7-step process. Tony Keller has a process template. A lot of guys have these templates they use that just allows them to quickly write their sermons so much faster, as opposed to just staring at a blank piece of paper and saying, oh man, like, where do I even start? You throw out this template and you know that you have, okay, well, I've got a greeting, I've got a transitional statement, or Andy Stanley would say your 1 point. You know, you're going to do your scripture reading, you're going to pray, you're going to have a call to action, you're going to have a conclusion. If you're a 3-point preacher, you know, you're going to have your 3 points. So you can just have a template that helps you get started, and you know, a major illustration, maybe if you're an illustration kind of speaker, you're going to have all of those things. Now, like I said, the guy that I got this idea from, he wrote on the actual paper on this roll. Now, again, for me, I'm an external processor. I like to just have a bunch of ideas that a lot of them I'm probably not going to use. So for me, I even switched up a little bit more. Now let me roll this up so I can show you what I've done. And so what I do is I roll out my template here, secure that there. I'll use the pad tablet here. Now what I've done is this, is I've gone to 3x5 cards. And the reason why I've gone to 3x5 cards is this, is that I can throw out all my ideas. I can just write out whatever idea comes to my mind, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, I can just write out my idea. So a prayer idea, a closing idea, as I'm reading through my commentaries or reading through my study materials, I just jot down notes, thoughts. Oh, man, that's really good. Maybe a Hebrew word, a Greek word, whatever it is. I'll write all those things down, and I'll just begin to spread these all out. And then, you know, as I'm kind of going through, I might just kind of throw, that might be good in this section over here, or then that might be a good call to action, or that's probably the text section. Here's a couple ideas for a transitional statement, and I'll just start throwing those all out. I might have 40, 50, 60, a ton of these. And again, now you'll see that I'm kind of running out of space here. So again, that's why for me, now that I'm pretty committed to it and I have a bigger desk, I'm going to be going to this bigger roll, which will give me essentially probably twice as much room to work with on the paper. But I can, for example, even on this desk, I could just essentially put this up here, right? And then that would give me more space down here to throw cards and all that kind of stuff. And then what I do is I can just begin to go through and move these around. And so that's why I decided to not just write on the paper, is because what I found was I was writing out all these ideas. I was like, well, I don't like that for point 2. That's better over here for point 1, and that's not really in this section. Maybe that comes over here to conclusion. So I can begin to move all of these around very easily, where when I was writing on the paper, I'd have to cross it out, or, you know, draw these arrows. And so I just ended up having all these arrows and things crossed out. And it was just kind of ugly and tedious, and it was hard to find. But with this, now I can write these all out, move them around, all that kind of stuff. And if you're like me, I like to work in different spaces. And so sometimes I like to go to a coffee shop, or I like to maybe go to a different place to work, things like that. You can, and I've done this many times, is just pile these up. And sometimes what I'll do is, if I know I'm going to be doing that with that kind of a message, is I'll write each of the different sections. So I follow loosely. I personally, I kind of combined a little bit of Judah's outline, which is a 7-step process, with a little bit of Andy Stanley's thoughts and like a big transitional thought, with a little bit of more of a 3-point style as well. So I've kind of thrown all of those kind of best parts of those together for me to come up with what is comfortable for me for my sermon template. And so now I'll just kind of write out those, and then those 2x5 cards can be separated. And then I know, okay, as I'm when I get to Starbucks or whatever, I can go, okay, well, let me work on point 3, or let me work on that transitional statement a little bit. And I'll just carry these cards. Typically, I'll have maybe 15, 20 that are already written on, and then I'll have maybe I'll take a stack of maybe 30 more that I haven't written on. And I'll just take them with me, and I have all of them written out. It's visual. It's in front of me. And again, you can have stuff on these that maybe is a little bit more private. You don't really want people looking at. You just roll them up. Just roll them up and put your paper clip on it and throw them in your basket right here, and then you can save them for later. Or again, if again you are maybe a series kind of guy and you have your next series for the next few months written out, you can again have all those written, laid out. Hey, here's part 1, part 3, part 4, part 8, whatever it is, and have them all rolled up. Put them in your basket, and then you can just look them up and say, okay, well, there's part 3. Let me just kind of start working that out. Work that out for today. Just kind of work on that a little bit. Throw it in your basket, and boom, there you go. So that is a little bit about my at-home creative process that I've been toying with the last few months. Hopefully that's interesting and helpful to you. I know you guys are at home working from your home office, or maybe you're like me, your home office is actually your bedroom as well. And so it's nice to have something that isn't going to be out, taking up all kinds of space. Again, when I was working at home before here, now we have an office, but before, I used our dresser. And it was a lot smaller. I mean, it was not much wider than this. So this worked. I would just take the picture frames, things like that, off of my dresser, roll this out on our long dresser. I would use this, go for all this kind of stuff. And then if I wanted to work at night and my wife was in bed, I would just roll this up, take it out into our kitchen, roll it out on our kitchen table, do all my notes, push all that kind of stuff around. And then again, I'd roll it up, put all the notes, because again, that was going to be our kitchen table where our kids were going to be eating dinner and breakfast, all kind of stuff the next day. So I'd roll it up, take it back into my my office, right? Yeah, I mean, it's just a good way. The other thing, I mean, you can do obviously tape. If you wanted to just write some things, tape them up, your goals or things like that. You can, again, this paper is available, ready to go, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's helpful to you. And I enjoy just kind of sharing a little bit about my journey of transitioning from traditional office into a home office. So have a great day. Would love to hear what you're working on, what you're doing in the comments below. What are you doing to keep the creative process going when you're out working at home? So love to hear it. Leave comments below. We'll see you guys soon.